The Nintendo Wii U remaster, well, may have run dry for Switch 2, but there is still plenty of IP left for Nintendo from days of yore that went unused on Switch. What would the team most like to see unearthed from Nintendo's Kyoto Vault? I'm all in for a new Wave Race or Pilot Wings. Oliver, what do you think about this?
Yes, I think in general, Nintendo has not done a great job with their racing games
Right.
recently, except for Mario Kart. We get a new Mario Kart, it seems like maybe every 10 years. The last one was in 2014, not too often.
Wow.
I think a new F-Zero game would be really cool. Obviously, people have been asking for that for ages and ages. And, it's the last one's over 20 years old at this point, I think. A new Wave Race would be fantastic as well. We had a Wave Race on 64, Wave Race on GameCube, but none since. Those are terrific games. And always the water in those games looks quite terrific as well. So that'd be fun to look at. I think Pokemon Stadium would be cool too. I used to play those games when I was a kid, not as much now, but those are cool. The home console Pokemon games, maybe there's less of a use for those now that all Pokemon games are home console games. But that was a fun series. I think in terms of like actual like interesting choice, I'd say Elite Beat Agents. That was a really cool series for DS. I think they released one or two of them on the DS back in the day. I think that actually would work reasonably well given Nintendo's current orientation, because the Switch obviously has a touchscreen. It's a pretty good touchscreen. I think you could do one with fingers, or maybe with fingers and possibly a pack-in stylus or something like that. That would be very interesting. And I think that game is just a fun series, and it's something they could definitely bring back. Maybe not as an $80 game, but maybe as something a little bit more cut price, because I think that's a bit of a high asking price for a title like that. But it would be interesting.
Interesting. Any thoughts, Alex?
I would say Star Fox, mainly just because I think Star Fox 64 is a pretty cool game. I always have a soft spot in my soul for it. I like it a lot. And just in general, though, the thing that from the N64 era that they don't kind of invest so much so in anymore. Obviously, Rare was their main production house for it, but the kind of, I don't want to say collectathon, but the different scoped 3D platformer, like the adventure 3D platformer, beyond Mario, I don't think they have a lot of more like differently scoped 3D platformer games, and they have so many different IPs to work from to do that. Even just taking characters from their main IP that are not the headline characters always, I think, is a fun way to do it with Nintendo. But they, their whole design process is so obfuscated. I have no idea like what starts a game at Nintendo. If it just starts as an idea and they attach a character to it, or if they start with the character and they wonder about the ideas. I don't really know, unfortunately. There's probably someone who does. But I feel like Star Fox. I think Star Fox is cool.
So I think there is a bit of an issue here whereby the Switch, basically did indeed rely upon, all of the first party output from the Wii U. And, it worked in sort of bulking up the schedule. And what we're seeing now is that Nintendo is kind of like going further back and like making remasters / remakes of stuff like DS games, 3DS games, etc., which is a really interesting move. And what's interesting is that by and large, it's paying off. I guess, though, when you're talking about stuff like a new Wave Race or Pilot Wings, we're not talking about taking existing work and embellishing it. We're talking about brand new games based on that IP. And I'm all in on that, certainly for Pilot Wings, which I think could be absolutely terrific. But we are talking about brand new games, I think. We're talking about bringing back classic IPs like F-Zero, Pilot Wings, etc., Star Fox, and that's a completely different proposition from basically porting across stuff from Wii U with minor embellishments. So I'll just couch a bit of caution on there, but absolutely, Nintendo does have a rich and varied history of absolutely amazing games, and the nostalgia factor just makes you want to play them. So I think that's certainly a potent way forward, but it's only going to go so far in addressing the fact that your first party output is probably going to be necessarily lower than it was during the Switch era.
Right.
Just my thoughts.